Hi there. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, great. I am Carla Sosenko. I am a culture and entertainment writer. I'm so glad to be here today with you guys and, of course, with this amazing cast. So let's just get right to them. If you could please help me welcome Chloë Grace Moretz, Jennifer Ehle, John Gallagher Jr., and Forrest Goodluck. Hi there. Hello. So the first question that I wanted to ask all of you is why this movie right now? When the script came across your desk for all of you, why was this something that you wanted to do?
Well, let's start. Well, I would say for multiple reasons for me. I think, in particular, I come from a family with two gay brothers, and so I've always been, inherently an advocate for the LGBT community. But I loved the way this views the interpersonal relationships of gay kids meeting other gay kids for the very first time, and those intimate but at times comedic and lighthearted moments, but surrounded with the latent darkness of the conversion therapy, and also the educational side of people. I think a lot of people for the first time realizing, oh, there is a thing such as conversion therapy. Yeah, I felt needed.
I was actually really surprised when I was kind of looking into this film and doing my research that it's exactly as you said. There's been so little, there was. But I'm a cheerleader years and years ago, which was a very kind of dark comedy. But there really hasn't been anything since. And of course, this was based on a book. And I'm curious, had any of you read the book? No.
No.
Is that something in particular? Do you try to stay away once you know you're going to take a role and there's been a book, especially a beloved book? As actors, do you try to stay away from that? Do you go to that source material and try to kind of mine it? What is that process like?
Well, I did read the section of the book. I didn't read the entire book, but I read the section of the book that we kind of overlap with a little bit. And I realized soon on that it was that the character of Lydia was very different in the book from how she was in the script. But the book was so good that I kept going anyway. But that was, yeah.
How was Lydia different? Because we'll talk a little bit more about this, but you're kind of the villain of the film in a way. I'm sure that there are ways that you find humanity in Lydia, I imagine, but I'm curious how the two diverged or how they were different. Was she less likable, more?
She's sort of an ice queen in the book, which I don't know. I didn't intend to play her as an ice queen. Right. I don't know how she comes across, but she's very blonde and kind of and yes, she's sort of an ice queen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. What about the rest of you guys, just in terms of your process, whether it's this film in particular or other films, if there is sort of source material, in terms of your own process, is that helpful for you? Do you stay away from it?
Well, I really liked Desiree's first film, Appropriate Behavior, and I had seen it before I read this script. And so first and foremost, I always am looking for filmmakers that I like and admire and want to work with. And so before I even read the script, I just saw her name on the project, and I got really excited about reading it. And then I read it, and I was like, "Oh, this is incredible." I still haven't read the book. I'm just going to confess that here for the first time. I don't think I've said that out loud to anybody before, but I plan on reading it. I can't wait to read it.
I have it. I bought it.
Can I borrow your copy,
Sitting there.
please? My process. I've done one other thing. I think only one other, maybe more. Could somebody IMDb it real quick for me and see if I've done multiple things based on books? But I did the same thing with another project I did where I started to read the book before we filmed it, and then I got really freaked out.
Yeah.
And I was like, because you are making something different, and it's impossible to really recreate, obviously, something that's on the page. And so I like to kind of go through after the release and everything, and then sit back down with the book and go back to the blueprint, really, which is what it really is. But Emily, the author, has been amazing. It's been so cool getting to know her at some of the screenings. But yeah, I just went with the script and used that as kind of the roadmap, and Desiree was a great guide and led me through it, because I really enjoy reading something, and if the first thought is, oh, I don't know if I can do this, it's a terrifying moment, but that is kind of a cool place to jump off. And that was definitely, with this one, that was my first thought, and Desiree kind of convinced me to do it.
Yeah, I think for me, I didn't read the book either, so I was in the same boat.
Okay, whew.
Okay.
I think
I don't feel so bad now.
For me, like, what was interesting about this project is I was a part of this film, and then immediately after I flew to Canada to be a part of another film about a really messed up school system, which is about the Indian residential school system in Canada. And it was two very different processes, because with both films, I was going to be a part of a oppressive religious kind of camp. And so for this film, I think there was so much of a collaboration and friendship that happened, I think, with myself and Sasha and Chloë, that I just leaned on those actual and fictitious relationships that I think that we're building throughout the rehearsal process, as well as just the creation of this film. Like, just leaning on those friendships is where I think I tried to find the most reality with the scenes. But then, as I immediately went to this next film, I religiously read that book to find the intent of the character, because it was a character that was so inward that everything about the character's inner dynamics were written just sentence by sentence and beat by beat in that book. So I think for different projects it's different for me, but I think for this film in particular, leaning on those actual relationships is where I found that reality for me.
And I think that we as the viewer also lean on the relationship that you guys have with Jane Fonda also, because it's the kind of one place in the film where you feel warmth and you feel joy, and you just kind of want you guys to stick together. So I think that comes through. Something that I wanted to ask was about the research that you did. And Chloë, I know that I read that you and Desiree actually met with kids who had been sent to these conversion camps, and just wondering if you could speak a little bit about that and just some of the research that all of you did on this.
Yeah, Desi and I definitely felt it was very pertinent to being able to capture the conversion therapy moments correctly by meeting the survivors of conversion therapy. And so we contacted the Trevor Project and GLAAD, and they set us up with a bunch of really wonderful people who we were shocked, at least first and foremost, with how young they were. The people we were meeting were in their mid to late 20s. They had spent 5 to 6 years in conversion therapy. Most of them had been put in at 16. So it was a much more modern issue than I was aware of, and I think even than Desi was aware of. But we just found it important to ask them certain questions, and one in particular was, for me, I wanted to know, when you showed up to the camp, did you immediately show up and be like, oh, this is total BS, I'm not going to do this? Or did you really try? How much did you just laugh at the shocking, rhetoric of it all? And all of them kind of across the board said that they, of course, first and foremost, they tried. They tried very, very hard. And it wasn't until they were faced with the realization that the people that were trying to condition them to hate themselves were vastly unprepared to be doing this. And that was the moment that they finally turned and went, oh, this isn't working. They don't know what they're doing, and I can no longer partake in it. Yeah. So that was kind of the interesting process. And obviously we had the question of, did you guys actually hook up in the rooms and stuff like that? We were like, how real is that? And they were all like, yes, some of their first actual sexual experiences with other people were during the camps. And I was like, okay, well, there we go. So, yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of, your character has this moment where, in the beginning, you tell Lydia, I don't really consider myself anything. And that felt very teenage to me, because when you're a teenager, you don't really know maybe yet maybe you're straight, maybe you're gay, maybe you're bi, maybe you're pansexual,
you
maybe
haven't
you're
articulated that yet.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you decide maybe you are gonna try, and it was that was a very harrowing part of the film, because I think you say, I'm just sick of being disgusted with myself, and that was the scariest part, and what I imagine that the kids that you talked to kind of felt the most, was that they were looking for some sort of escape. And I mean, I hope it, I'm glad they all got out, and you guys, thank God, get out at the end. So Jennifer, I do want to talk about Lydia a little bit. So Lydia is kind of the one character who is hardest to like, I think. And what is it like to play a character like that? How do you find the humanity in her?
Well, I think they sent a bunch of research things to watch and read, and I noticed that there was sometimes some of the people who work at these schools or camps and try to teach or oversee sexual conversion therapy. They have they really. I was most fascinated and found it most helpful the people who really truly believed. You could tell they really believed that they were doing a great act of kindness, and that they were. And so I think that was when I found a little, place to start trying to winkle in and pry in, because there would be, any fundamental religion is terrifying to me personally. Any fundamental anything really is kind of terrifying. And the lack of empathy or openness, I find, is so scary. But so I thought, if she's somebody who really, truly, if you truly believe that there is something greater, that there is an afterlife that is greater than anything that exists on Earth, like literally the most amazing thing that you can comprehend ever existing, and that you can help these children get that, and that you are doing a horrible thing if you deny them the chance to have this. So it was, honestly, I probably shouldn't. It was a head fuck, but but it was very interesting to try to walk in someone else's shoes that I disagree with so fundamentally. And so yes, but it was interesting. And I looked, I did read about. I went down the rabbit hole online looking at the steps you take to try to convert somebody to your religion or whatever, and that was fascinating as well. The internet's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, speaking of internet rabbit holes, that's actually a very good segue to a question that I had for you, which was that I had forgotten that in 2000, you won the Tony for The Real Thing, and also nominated in that category was, of course, your mother, the great Rosemary Harris. So first of all,
who actually ironed this today? Not that you.
Did you? So my question for you, and really my question for all of you, I'm wondering if for you, acting was always something that was kind of a foregone conclusion. If you knew since you were little you were going to do it, and really for all of you, Chloë, you're 21. I think you've got something like 60 credits to your name. So that's not even that long ago that you started. So for all of you, when did you know you wanted to be actors? Was it something that you had ever since you were little, either because of the people around you or otherwise?
Yeah, I think once I kind of got a sense of what that job was. Like when I was a kid, I was just obsessed with movies, and I would watch whatever my favorite movie of the week was over and over and over and over again. I would rewind the tape the minute it ended, wait for it to rewind, and then start it all over again. And I started seeing, I was like, wait a minute, Indiana Jones, what's he doing in Star Wars? And then I was like, oh, my mom explained it to me, well, that's Harrison Ford. He's an actor. And I was like, oh, wow. And that was pretty mind-blowing. And so once I kind of realized what that job was, I thought, yeah, that seems like a pretty cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I guess I always, when I was a young kid, I'm so fucking young kid. I used to make films with my friends, 12 and 13 years old, and it kind of became a thing where we would just, our play would just be play, but like with a camera, and we would just like make stories and write films. And it kind of got to a point where in school, like if I didn't want to write an essay, I would just like make a film and turn that in rather. So I think from that moment, I guess like it was kind of always this like delicate dance with storytelling and kind of being able to create something and share it with people. And I think ever since I got a taste of what storytelling meant, and I think the power it held, I guess I've always just chased that feeling.
For me, I grew up in a family with my brother Trevor, who was obsessed with movies when I was a baby, when I was 2 and 3 years old. So I grew up, he would use the little VHS camera, and I would always be his like Princess Leia or insert other female character, and he would put me on like a raft in the pool and have like the like pool things laying over me, and I'd be screaming and pretending to be taken down by a sea monster. And we'd put on plays. We'd do Oklahoma for my parents and do the whole 9 yards, and I would be somehow performing at 3 and 4 years old. And then we moved here to New York for him to go to the Professional Performing Arts High School, and I used to auditorily memorize his monologues. Oh, wow. And then we would just play, and he would like show me, like, we would try and make me cry, but do it as a game, and then I would learn how to cry, and then we learned how to like, you know, act like I was in love and all the different silly things as a little kid. And then it just kind of grew, and I kind of told my mom that I wanted to do whatever this meant and whatever this was. And my mom was like, no. And my brother said to my mom, he was like, well, let me take her on auditions if she wants to go, and let me do it with her, and it'll be our thing, and if it works, then she can keep doing it or not. And then it just kept happening, and I ended up booking my first project, and we moved to LA for my family, actually for my father's practice in medicine, and I ended up booking my first movie at 6 years old. And then in the Amityville Horror. And then from then I made like 4 movies a year pretty much from then until now somehow. Wow. So yeah, it wasn't until I was really 11 though that I realized it could be a little bit later than that. Actually, when I was like 13 when I looked at my mom, and all my friends were talking about college and going off to college and becoming an adult eventually. And I looked at my mom and I was like, God, it's gonna really suck one day. And she's like, what? I was like, when I have to quit and like become an adult, like, like this has been really fun, but this is not real. And she was like, no, this can be real if you want it to be. And that was like the first time where I realized, oh, this is like a career choice, yeah. And I can do this as a job. But yeah, until then it was just like fun and games, and it still is fun and games. But yeah.
Wow. Oh my God, you have talked about taking a break from acting, that you took some time off, and you kind of wanted to reassess the types of roles that you were taking, and I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, what it is that you're hoping to get from a project, and really that goes for all of you, you know, what you're looking for in the projects that you want to devote your time and craft to.
Yeah, well, I think it's really easy to get, when you love something so much, it's really easy to just get caught up in keeping doing it, and just, you can do it every day, all day, in 100 different projects. But then you start to realize that if these projects aren't fulfilling something within yourself, you're just depleting yourself over and over and over. And I got to this point where I was making these really, really big projects, and they were, you know, people liked them and they were enjoyed. But I would lay down at night and I felt, for the first time in my life, that this fire inside of me was just kind of dwindling. I didn't know what it meant. And I looked at my brother and I was like, I don't know why, but I feel like I'm not connecting to what I'm doing. And he was like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to do something drastic and pull out of the 3 movies that I was attached to and just stop for a second and figure that out. And he was like, okay. And he was like, okay, let's do it. And we went to my agents and told them that I'm pulling out of everything, and they were like, you're going to lose your career. And he protected me, and he allowed me to kind of take that time away. And I went away and just sat and started the inner dialogue in my head with myself, and realized that, you know, the projects that I want to be doing something that, you know, lights a fire under me in a way that if I read the script and I put it down, I wake up the next day and I go, God, I can't imagine anyone else doing that. I have to do this. I have to be a part of this. And I have to show this to the world for some reason. And if I don't connect to that, then don't do it. And it took a long time to become okay with listening to your own voice and not just all the things around you or even the want to just keeping busy, because it's hard to be silent and quiet and still. It's a difficult thing to become comfortable with. So once this script came across my page, it did a lot for me. It hit me in a place where I felt like, it was something I'd never taken part in, something that was special and different, and it combined my love of activism with acting, and it just felt right. And Desi is such a brilliant filmmaker that her at the helm of it, there was really no question as to whether or not this was the one to do.
What about the rest of you? Is there something in particular that you look for or you're hoping to get in a role or in a project?
I don't know. I find more and more there's a certain feeling that if I can be in a place where it really just feels like we're putting on a show, just like a group of people helping to tell a story together, that when I'm in situations that feel like that's when I'm in the right place. Can't always afford to be in that place. But if I ever make a decision or think I'm making a savvy business decision, it goes wrong. But if I'm in a place where I really just want to work with this group of people and help tell a story together, and I do find that independent filmmakers, that there is really that freedom, that if you're working for somebody like Desi, and other people that I've been lucky enough to work with, who really, Ira Sachs and people like that, who there's no one above them telling them what to do, that you're helping them tell their story. They're not being told by the money people or whatever. So that's a sweet spot to be there.
No.
Yes. I was just
No.
going to say that Jennifer put it perfectly. That I fully agree with that and feel the same way.
Sorry.
I also agree with that.
Okay. I wanted to ask a question about some of the specific takes in the film. So I noticed that the camera, there are a couple of spots where it trains on a character and kind of just stays there. And the first one that I really noticed, John, was with your character when the trio.
Cereal.
What's that?
The
With
cereal?
the cereal.
Yeah.
The cereal. And they tell you they're going on a hike. They're of course leaving, escaping. And you of course are, I think that we're incredibly sympathetic to your character because you are there and you are working with the oppressors, but there's a kindness and a loveliness to you, as there is with Marin Ireland's character too, I would say. But you're also a victim. You're a victim. You've had the exact same thing done to you by Lydia that everybody else there is doing. And so the camera, they leave, and we expect to follow them out. And you just sit there and you keep eating your cereal. And we kind of get that lengthy take again in the back of the truck. We think that's going to cut and it's going to be over and credits roll. But no, we stay trained on the three friends. And I'm just wondering, what is it like as an actor to sit in a moment like that where you're really you're not really doing very much, but you're just eating, or you're just sitting and about to start your new life, which is huge. But it's very powerful. It's actually very emotional to watch.
Well, that moment is actually a total surprise. I think in the script it just says, Rick sits down and joins them at breakfast, and then they leave. And I think it says I think maybe you're the last one. Somebody says bye, Rick, and then it's cut to them outside, and I had no idea what was happening. They just didn't cut. they just didn't cut, and I just kept eating the cereal. And that's the take that's in the film. And then surely afterwards, like when they finally yelled cut, Desiree was like, "I'm so sorry. That was just so amazing. It was so sad and heartbreaking, and I just couldn't yell cut. I just wanted to watch your character longer." And so I thought, well, that's gonna end up on the cutting room floor for sure. And then we went to the premiere, and I was like, oh, it's really in there. It's totally in the film. Every excruciating bite. But it ends up being this great farewell to that character, and what a smart moment for them to not, they saw something that I didn't realize was happening and decided to just leave it. And then to have usually those are the moments that I feel get taken out, that somebody says, oh, well, that's just a little, we don't really need that, or that's too long. And I think that there's some really brave editing choices in the film to stay on moments that, otherwise might be kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah. A question for you guys, for a room full of actors, is what is the job that got you your SAG card?
I think The Revenant must have been what got me my SAG card. I think
Just a little film,
yeah.
a lot of unknowns. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. What I didn't know is that a SAG card can get you free movies. And so, my friend, this crazy guy named Johnny Ortiz, was explaining to me how to get free movies. So I don't actually pay for movies anymore, which is kind of bad because I feel like the movie industry is kind of right now, and MoviePass is trying to save that. But I'm just totally not supporting artists, and it feels pretty bad. But I don't know. Free movies, support artists. It's good.
I think I was 16, and it was a Hallmark Hall of Fame movie of the week called The Flamingo Rising. Starring Brian Benben,
Oh my God.
William Hurt,
Wow.
and someone else. Some other people. Yeah, it was great. I remember the first day of filming, I didn't say anything. I just walked down these stairs, and William Hurt was waiting to go on and do a scene, and I walked by him, and it was my first take, and I was like, okay, I'm coming down the stairs, and I look natural, but also cool. And I walked down the stairs and walked off camera, and William Hurt, who I didn't even think knew my name, looked at me and he went, "Perfection, John." It's like, wow. Cool.
I think I got my SAG card. My first film I did in America was Michael Clayton, and I was cut. So I actually didn't get a SAG card and I used to, when I was in England, because I worked in England till I was 30, and I hadn't ever worked in America. And then I didn't end up working in America till a few years after I'd been here for a film. And then I would say to people when I was in England, are there should I be, there's some people in this film who are SAG, should I? And people are like, no, Joe, no, we don't want any English. That's why we're here in England, right? Because we don't want, and it was this really strange thing. And so we would have some actors who would have certain rules, and then the English actors would have other rules. And I wasn't a member of, because I never worked in America, so I was a member of British Equity, which had very different rules. So we would all get much less sleep than the American actor, and things like that. But so yes, I love my SAG card, and I'm very proud of it. And yes, it was Michael Clayton, even though I got cut.
Mine was a tiny itty bitty baby film called The Heart of the Beholder, and I played a girl who got kidnapped and almost killed by this religious fanatic. So I was 5 years old. But yeah, that was it. That was my first one.
Oh my God. All right. Well, unfortunately, we only have time for one more question. So if you could give any advice to actors in this room, anything at all, what would you tell them?
Keep eating the cereal until they say cut.
Yeah, I agree. You never know. You just never know.
I think also I think something to always remember, which is hard to remember, is that you get faced with so many no's, and you get faced with more no's than yeses. But try and stick through it, because it's really hard every time you get a call and it's like, they didn't want you for this reason, or they didn't want you for that reason. And you definitely get a lot more of that than you end up getting the yeses. But when you do get that yes, it's meant to happen that way. It's difficult, though.
All right. Yeah.
I agree with.
No. Oh God, I keep doing it. This is the worst. I'm the worst. Well, thank you so much for coming. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for watching this amazing film. Forrest Goodluck, Gallagher Jr., Jennifer Ehle, and Chloë Grace Moretz.